Our conversation of the day, harnessing data for economic transformation in Nigeria. And joining me in the studio, well, it's been a while we've had that. I don't even think I know how many times we've actually had a female in the studio. But hey, joining me in the studio is Sharon Orisakwe. She's a data analyst. She's the CEO of Eagle Berger Data Analytics, and she's here to talk to us about how data can help us drive Nigeria's economy to the next level. Thank you for joining the program this morning.
Thank you, Chiamaka.
So tell me, first of all, we hear data. Someone out there might think is the one we need to browse and to get to be on the internet on our phones. But explain, when we say data, what do we actually mean?
Data is actually information. So everything is data. Data is literally life. So every information, saying how are you and getting a response from the person you've asked the question to is data. You've collected information on how the person is feeling today, and with that you can actually now actively help that person in any way. So data practically is information. Okay, so basically having the right information. So how to have the right information to get Nigeria's economy in the right place. Yes. Okay, now so let's come to our beautiful country, Nigeria. What are the core elements that Nigeria must prioritize to actually transition into a fully data-driven economy? Okay. Thank you for that question, Chiamaka. I think one of the key elements, and which is foundational, we actually call them canonical data sets. They are foundational data sets that every country needs to have to be able to plan properly. And number one is our population. We've not had census in the last over
2006
was yes, that was the last census. So you can see something as important as that, because population is actually a tool you can use for planning. So every year we do budgets. We have this big process where we do budgets from the local level to the state level to the national level. We've had budgets, but there is no data to back that. For example, it's like sharing a cake. If you don't know how many people you're dividing the slice to, how can you effectively share the cake and allocate the resources? Even in the household, you know your budget for a 3-person household will be different from a 5-person household. But we've not been able to determine that. Of course, we have estimates. We've heard 200 million, we've heard 180, we've heard 190, but we are not exactly sure. Those are all mathematical rates that have been put into place to estimate, but it's not the ideal. Even drilling down to demographics, how do you know where your population is more? So they say we have a more youthful population. How do we know the numbers? If we have a more aging population, how do we know the numbers? And then looking at even immigration movements, over the last 15 years, we've had a lot of conflict in the Sahel region. So naturally, people move from places that are more conflict prone to quieter places. And our borders are quite open. So we don't even know how many people have come into our country. And also looking at local challenges, we've had some hotspots in the region. So the southeast, the northwest, the north central and northeast have had conflicts as well. So people move from those areas to less conflict prone areas, even rural urban movements. So you can see that there are different ways to look at this data. Looking at population density, how do you know, oh, this area has more people than this? So how do you effectively allocate resources when these things are not known? So it begs the question, if our political class knows these things and they know the importance of data, why are they not insisting that this thing is done well? We know how we react to data in Nigeria. I mean, we've heard public commentators, even the ruling class, talk about now statistics we go chop. So that cultural disregard for the importance of data in executing our jobs and our duties has come into play. So you see that the political class has turned data from a planning tool, from census, from a planning tool into a political tool, because there is a lack of willingness to change the status quo. So, for example, our FAC, 30% of our FAC allocation to local governments and states is weighted according to population. So people who are currently benefiting off a more high population are reluctant to encourage a new census to
Oh.
show the true state of things. So there's that lack of political will to get it done. But until our foundational data sets, our foundational canonical data sets are in place, we're literally not ready to get into
So basically, one of the
space.
major things we need to figure out and get done properly going forward to help us move to the next level is data,
Yes.
population. Actually.
Population, that's the found. You cannot be providing for a group of people if you don't know
How many
people you're providing. How do you, resources are limited, how do you actively allocate resources so they do more for you?
All right. Now, you've said this, and it's a great thing because now you've answered one question I was going to ask. How will that actually help us? But let's come down to one of the issues that we have, the public sector, the government sector. How will data actually help improve efficiency? Because we go there, at times you're trying to get a file to move, and it's taking a file that's supposed to move from one desk to the other, but it takes like 2 months for it to leave from that desk to the other desk. So how do we see that these things the public sector becomes efficient?
Okay, thank you for that question. Data is very important because one of the things when you digitize your processes, like can be seen in Rwanda, your processing becomes faster and smoother, is more digitalized. You eliminate the human elements, which slows down this process. We always talk about bureaucracy in government. Digitizing your system and your process completely, I won't say maybe 95% eliminates that bureaucracy.
Okay.
And then you're able to curb leakages, you're able to curb wastage.
Like we're seeing that they're doing with the customs.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So
okay.
you can see where it's been digitized. It eliminates those bottlenecks. But where it is not, you've opened that sector to manipulation and things that can mislead you executing your duty.
So now, economic sectors that would benefit most immediately from stronger data analysis. Let's look at that because at least that way I will know where to go and start investing right now. So
the biggest sector that will benefit immediately is agriculture.
Again, it keeps coming up in all those conversations.
Yes, agriculture, because agriculture is such an important sector in our economy, and we really do have a lot of arable farmland, and it's one of the areas where a lot of our people are in. One of the things, we talk about food security and securing food, but one way to ensure that food is secure is actually knowing what your arable land can produce. So when you map out, just using special systems, you can map out farmlands, you can know what your crop will yield, you can know what the average yield in a year or what the total yield in a year your arable farmlands can produce, and you are able to effectively estimate and project your consumption needs. So if with those numbers you can actually realize that, do we have a surplus? What do we do with surplus? Do we export? Do we have a shortfall? What do we do with the shortfall? Do we import? I remember when our food inflation was increasing, and I remember in October 2021, if my memory serves me right, we had an inflation of about 13.12%, and then the government in power then put in a food importation border ban, and then we saw our food importation rise to a peak of about 37.92% because we could not service our needs. So the cost of foods went up. So you see how government ignored a warning that came up, and still went ahead to put in a policy that did not serve us. So agriculture, we can literally solve our food supply problems with proper data mapping of the agricultural sector. Even with risk, early warnings, climate, you can know areas that would face flood and then solve for that way ahead of time.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's one sector that will benefit today. We can go on, there's financial services, there's healthcare, there's logistics. So these are all sectors that will immediately improve once a digital system or processes are being put into place. Okay.
Now, we don't have much time, so I'm going to ask you about the people that make the most of our GDP, the SMEs, the informal sector. How can the Nigerian SME use data analytics to increase revenue, and reduce operational costs?
Okay. Thank you for that question. I'm very passionate about SMEs. And the basic challenge SMEs in Nigeria face is actually, aside funding, is resources management, as well as cost reduction, which you've highlighted. SMEs, once you record your sales and your expenses, you're already collecting data. From that data, once you analyze it, you are able to see patterns. So you already know customers and their needs. So the customers you service, you know what they purchase more from you. You already know areas where you incur more cost. So with analysis like that, you are able to identify what you should provide for your customers more, what you should reduce cost. So it helps you target how to efficiently sell your service and reduce the costs you face. So for example, you can know seasonal peaks and lows. I'll use an ice cream shop. So an ice cream shop that sells ice cream knows that during the rainy season, their numbers will be less than during the dry season, even with staffing. So you know even the timing in your, you know your peak periods, maybe evenings or after children close from school, they go after for ice cream. So you know you have more feet in your store at that time. You might have more staffing at that time. At night time, same thing. Mornings, you might have few staffing. So it helps manage costs. You know where to supply limited resources at the right time to provide the greatest yield. So GDP basically is what's the value of the sum of your total factors of production. So if you can efficiently allocate resources to boost production, then you become a very profitable company.
This is a very, very lovely conversation. Hopefully we'll have you back again to talk more on it and how to harness our economy using data and get us to the next level. I've been with Sharon because she's been talking to us on data and how it could help us make our economy better. I hope you've learned something, especially for an SME person, how you can use your data, your buying, your selling, and know how to best position your business to make better profits and reduce operational costs. I've been your host this morning, Chiamaka Nwafor. Same time, same place tomorrow. Bye for now.